We are now live.
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? What's up? Good evening, good day, good afternoon. Some places it's Saturday, some places Sunday. It's the weekend vibes here. My name is René John Sandy, and welcome to the Stop Shooting Volume 1 panel. As many of you know, we have a project that's called Stop Shooting Volume 1 Voices of Justice. That's out now. You can get it on Bandcamp. It's on all live streaming platforms. And it was basically a project put together amongst artists from 25 different countries to collaborate and to have a voice and take a stance on all the gun violence and police brutality going on in our global community. So we decided, hey, why not have like a panel discussion with with artists and producers involved with the project, get to hear their experience, and let's dive deep into these topics and even having a place to even create a solution for it. First and foremost, just want to thank all the organizations involved, from Hip Hop Love, Generation Hip Hop, Hip Hop Union, and Junior Music Executive, and the GECS Summit. Shout out to Natalie Prue, who's our tech panelist who holds it down for us. Shout out to Apollonia, that's out there as well. And we're going to get into this conversation. We have a really dynamic group of individuals today. I have a wonderful co-moderator here today. I just want to also give a shout out to Exodus Payne. He's supposed to be here today, and unfortunately he's a little bit under the weather. So all of us here just sending you love, good vibes, healing vibes, and all that good stuff. So shout out there if you're listening. And I want to introduce one of my lovely co-hosts, my sis that's in the building. She's a trooper. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning here. So she's definitely dedicated to the cause, to the project. So she's a wonderful, talented artist. Actually getting to know her now, she's a producer, doing some magnificent stuff. Always, she's trying to deny it, but she is. And she does a lot of great work within the community with the youth in Australia, from Aboriginal youth to youth of color, using just her talents and her just artistry. And if you also know her, she's also she's a chef. She might not call herself a professional one, but if you look at her page in Mirrah Reflects, you will see her get down on some real good vegan meals, and look very tasty. But here right now, I just want to introduce my sis Mirrah. What's up, sis? How you doing?
Much peace. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction, René. I should keep you in my pocket and pull you out anytime I feel bad. I just wish to quickly acknowledge the land that each of us reside on. The land that I am on is Indigenous and always will be Aboriginal land. And pay respects to the elders past and present and emerging of Indigenous, and we respect also the non-Indigenous that are amongst us. I definitely am grateful to be a part of Hip Hop Loves and the family of this panel as well for the project that we are about to share, and how important, why we all felt we needed to be upon this. And when we were introduced to it, we have each so much history on our own of what we feel when we pour our hearts out. I feel like it's bigger than hip hop. So I'm glad that you've joined our panel today and hear the discussion, because when it comes to passion, human rights, and just about how we wish to develop better as humanity on this beautiful planet that we have, it is a form, like a recipe, that we each are an ingredient together to make this amazing jumbo become a delicious plate to be upon, so we can indulge a better lifestyle. So everything that I do when it comes to hip hop, it is hip hop. It might be separately done, like from music, like what René said, music, food, learning beats. I'm definitely not a producer. I am a beat maker, which is, and that's the fun thing as well, when you develop as your own chef. And what you see right now upon us, we have different chefs right now on this panel, and everyone's going to share their ingredient and how they feel is important to bring justice to our companionship as humans. So yeah, I'll give it back to you, René, because I'm really excited to get this moving and hear these amazing individuals that you see that are not just talent, but just individuals as humans. So let's go. Peace to everybody that I don't know. Peace to Five Steves, Richard, Reeves, and to all my other family. I love you. It's so good to see everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, just want to share. First and foremost, everybody who's out there, if you could take a moment, we thank you all for logging in on a Saturday or a Sunday, wherever you're at. If you could take a moment and share the link for the Facebook page and share it to your status, share it to a friend. This is going to be a pretty dynamic conversation. So, let's get as many people as possible to come in and join the conversation. So, if you could take a time and do that real quick, even, DM somebody, whatever it is, please do so. Want to give a little background first off on this project. So the Stop Shooting Project started actually around 2016 and started in Harlem, New York as from Hip Hop Loves. I'm co-founder and executive director of the organization, and we were doing a hip hop workshop at the Harlem Children's Zone with a few youths. And one of the youths was not really getting good grades, and he always wanted to be in the studio. And I promised him, I said, hey, if you get your grades over 85, I'll make sure you can get in the studio and record. He wanted to go to like a real time, professional studio. He started showing up every day. He went to class, did his work, and he got the grades. So, we fulfilled the promise, and we set up a studio session. So then we decided to figure out what was going to be the theme of the song. What do you want to do? So we decided to do something at that time that was Eric Garner in the city had gotten, he died from the police brutality. There's a Trayvon Martin case. So we decided, hey, why don't we do something around, this whole police brutality and gun violence situation. So then I actually reached out to Dr. Yusef Salaam from the Central Park Five Exonerated and asked him if he would like to get involved with this. If his story is pretty dynamic. And then we got a studio session and we recorded the song with 3 of the youths there in the Harlem Children's Zone program. And then, it just became pretty dope, and we got a video done. And then we decided, hey, why don't we expand and do some more songs around this. So we did one in Atlanta with some youths. I actually built with my brother right here, Five Steves, about doing something in Jamaica. So he hopped on board, which was dope. And Sergey Ivanov, hopefully he can hop on soon. We did something in Russia, and then we just collaborated with Generation Hip Hop. And also we were doing workshops in Philly with Aisha Winfield. That's there in the building too. So, we've had some pretty dynamic conversations, and it just turned out being this project that expanded to just going to having 25 different countries represented, and actually having 2 volumes of it. So, we'll be talking about volume 1 right now. So yeah, without further ado, Mirrah, let's get into let's get to all the panelists. I want to hear where everyone's from, what you're about. Let the public know, man. So let's start off with because he was the early bird here. We're gonna start off with my man MD. Another props to you. Being out in Indonesia because it's Sunday morning out there, and you holding it down. So tell us what you're about. Tell us what's going on. Explain your experience with the project.
Yo, what up? This is MD. I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. So yeah, this is welcome to Stop Shooting panel discussion about it. So yeah, this is a great experience for me to join this compilation because I can work with the international people, like a lot of international rappers, hip hoppers, so this is a great experience for me. I feel lucky to be here. So yeah, it's all I can.
MD, if you don't mind addressing, do you feel when this project came to you, did you feel that about I know in respect to Jakarta and Indonesia, were you felt that you were allowed to even speak about police brutality or any violence that you've seen? And is that allowed to even be spoken about? Obviously we don't want you to get in trouble either because it's different governmental situations. So in respect to that, is there some way you can share your experience of saying, yes, I will delve into this and wish to be a part of this?
Yes, this is actually at Indonesia. There's a lot of things going on out here, and a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. Is same thing like everybody. I think same thing like everywhere else. You know, we have the right to speech, right? We have freedom of speech. Is worldwide. We got freedom of speech, right? It is our right. We got that right, and well, I think it's all good. It's all good though, as long as uh we don't we don't why how to say it? We don't diss the president or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you're able to have your freedom of speech, but you have to make sure that you contain information against someone and it's not
Yes.
directed to the actual top, but it's
Hmm.
talking about, but you be able to speak about the police? Are they considered separate, or do they, like some people look at government or police as ruled by the top?
Well, it depends on the case, though. Sometimes,
Mm.
it depends on the case because, like, we got a different situation uh, from here to we got a different situation. So it's all depend on the case. It's all depend on the case.
Thank you so much for your answers. I appreciate it. René, if possible, I'd love to meet Five Steves, because you did say that Five Steves was in the beginning as well, someone to assist you in the beginning. Much peace, King. How you doing? I wanted to ask yourself, like, tell us about yourself, to introduce not just to me, but to the listeners and our fellow panelists. What made you say, yes, I want to be a part of this, and educate us as well on what you feel about the state of police brutality and gun violence in your region that you're in.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Mirrah, and blessings to everyone that's on this meeting, everyone that's tuning in. I'm Five Steves. I'm a hip hop artist in Kingston, Jamaica. Also an event organizer. Not many events happening right now with this pandemic, but I've been a very active member of the local hip hop scene for, you could say, more than a decade now. And I actually know or met René John Sandy a few years ago. We met in person at the Trinity International Hip Hop Festival. But even before that, we had been speaking online, and I know he had interviewed me for his podcast. I think Global Love Warming or Global. I always mix up the name.
Got it. You got it.
Yeah. So I was an early guest on his podcast, and we've been in touch since then. So I think that might have been maybe around 2016, 2017. And we've just been in touch on and off, always talking about what he's working on, what I'm working on. So I've known about Hip Hop Laws for some time. I respected what they're doing. I've always seen what they're doing, especially the work he's been up to in Brazil. So I guess it was a no-brainer. And me being in Jamaica, not a lot of people know about hip hop in Jamaica. There's not a huge scene or anything like that. But René has been connecting people all over the world, as we see right here. So I guess it was natural for him to try to incorporate me. And when he came to me with this idea about this project, it made perfect sense, because coming from a place like Jamaica, it's somewhere that, unfortunately, yeah, we have a lot of beautiful scenery, we have a lot of great accomplishments, great people, but one of the things that we're unfortunately known for is the amount of crime and violence, So that is something where I feel like we can always have something to say about what's going on and try to influence people in a positive way. So,
yeah,
as I said, it was a no-brainer to get involved in the project. For me personally, the song that we did, me and Nomad Carlos, it was something where, René said, hey, want a song? And there was actually an incident that took place that you actually hear me rhyme about with an individual who I know. And that kind of prompted my verse. So I didn't really have to think too hard about what I was going to do, because these things, unfortunately, are a part of our reality. You know, we know victims, we know perpetrators as well. And we see where these things tear apart families and lives, you know, on all sides. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring out in the song that we did, When the Gun Sounds.
I like that. I actually been taking notes. I've placed something called beauty versus brutality and victims versus perpetrators. So that's something we can even talk about individually as well. You know, what is the beauty of your country and what is the brutality that's happening? And it is sad that unfortunately we have too many stories that's going to be heard today upon here, because there is so much beauty in where we reside, but then the brutality, and it's like, why is this consistent? Why has this been stemming for so many years? I'll just go through the panel how it is. Dumi, my brother, how are you? It's great to see you.
How you doing, Mirrah? How's it going, everybody on the panel? All these esteemed people on here, artists and creators and creatives, and everybody out here checking this out in real time, or if you're watching it after the fact. Appreciate you joining and listening, so we talk about this real important topic and kind of what people are doing to take action about it.
I wanted to ask the same question as well to you. Like, how did you get introduced to this beautiful, I always say beautiful project because it's a informative situation from a harsh situation, but it brought people together, you know? What is your beauty versus brutality and victims versus perpetrators?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good way to frame it. So I came to the project much like Five Steez. I think it was the exact same pathway, right? I did the podcast with René, and he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing," and this is early on. This global love warming compilation, and there's also another one in the works, Stop Shooting, and I'm not sure which was lined up first or second, but I was like, yeah, and it resonated because you know, being a Black person, being an African person, you know, from Zimbabwe originally, my family is from, and then being in the diaspora in America as an African American. I was born in the US. There's that experience of, you know, seeing the treatment and, you know, the violence and the brutality. And I think the fallacy, right? When people try to throw stones at your argument, they always try to find a side that they can be like, well, what about, you know, the whataboutism? And so when you talk about police brutality, they're like, well, what about violence in the community? And it's like, well, we're talking about that too. You know, this is a holistic view of the ills that plague us and the causes. And so thinking about doing this through a compilation and through a musical project was really beautiful, to go with that analogy, because it allowed us to bring together such a broad view and perspective, right? Like, we're not on the inside looking in. There's people in different parts of the world, in different countries, that have different experiences and similar experiences. And there's a common thread, right? Of, you know, this, you know, mass violence through guns, right? Like, and then people in the US especially, there's like this whole thing about, oh, rights and this and that, but it's like the gun violence is out of control. And the first part of finding a solution to a problem is admitting that there's a problem, right? Alcoholic will never be cured if they don't think they're an alcoholic. And so talking about it and, you know, promoting dialogue and getting points of view and talking about what people have gone through, because a lot of times it's not real. If you're in a place where you haven't seen, observed, or, you know, been a victim or know victims or seen perpetrators, then you may not honestly be aware, right? So the important part of it is education and information, and relaying the information to people so that they can see what's going on. You know, this is the news broadcast from the streets of the world, you know, from every block, from my block to your block, whether you're in Santiago, Chile, or in Rio, Brazil. And somebody posted in the chat, like, a video where you're hearing gunshots in the neighborhood, and some people, that's not their reality, and they don't realize it's as big a deal as it is, because for them it didn't happen to them, they didn't see it. So it was something I definitely resonated with, and just felt I had to be a part. And I'm also an artist that collaborates with international MCs, artists, producers on the regular basis anyway. So it was just a natural fit, because I'm always like reaching out to folks. And so like when we did a song, it's like, hey, let me pull in this person and that person and reach out to these folks and get them involved, because I knew, they kind of had like-minded points of view, and also could speak well and articulately about this situation that we're facing.
I love what you just said right now. Thank you so much for such a broad answer. I wrote human rights versus gun violence. It's interesting because if you said to someone, what does human rights, like when I said you just gave us such a beautiful thing of what human rights is. But if you said it to someone, human rights is to someone else to have a gun and use your power on someone because you have the right to protect yourself, or you have the right to show that I have power. Like if some would say, we would say, if those agree on the panel, a human right would be more so to appreciate life, appreciate another person, how to protect another person, not to just use a gun to create a violent act. So I really felt that that was interesting, that some people can really have a different perspective, a metaphor to be like, yeah, but my human right is to use my gun. And if you're an individual that happens to abuse that in a situation that is a part of a governmental situation, we're calling them police, we're all saying on this panel as well, I'd like to direct that some may have family as police. Some people that may be listening may know great individuals who are police. We're not condemning those individuals. We're talking to those individuals that unfortunately have chosen power and use it as a negative tool to overrule and use a terrible power, horrific power over the to have people as victims. So I just want to announce that to any listener. We're not putting hate towards police, but we are using this platform to importantly say there are people that are negative, that are abusing their job and their communities, and not being a safe individual. But thank you so much, Dumi. I appreciate that answer. We'll keep going. Richard Reeves, much peace, King.
Dr. Rich, what's up, man?
Peace. I'm doing good, brothers. How y'all doing, sister?
René, would you like to ask, or would you like me to continue?
I'll just get into one thing. I'd just like to acknowledge for Dr. Rich real quick, and then I'll let you chime in. Like Dr. Rich, man, just for many of you don't know, it's been like, when you talk about this project, even beyond that, he's just a person that's like been an advocate, someone who's really, really rolled up his sleeves in communities, in New York, in the States, about, really taking a stance on gun violence. So I just wanted to, broadcast that out to, our whole community and everyone that's listening with that, and acknowledge you for all the really dynamic work that you do and that you're continuing to do, brother. But
Thank
please,
you, sir.
Elaborate on what you do, let us, definitely, drop some knowledge on everyone here.
Sure. Well, most folks know me as Dr. Rich, and I appreciate being able to be here. I am part of Generation Hip Hop, part of the board, and also part of the executive leadership team. I've been working on the ground. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been working on the ground as it relates to what I commonly call the peace movement of hip hop. Since hip hop's movement out of the 70s and through the 80s in New York, I'm a first generation hip hopper. My concentration was dance, graph arts, and then hip hop culture on a larger level as it relates to building the values of hip hop into young people's lives. Peace, unity, love, and having fun, knowledge, and so on. And I came up through the time when what we are seeing now as it relates to street violence, gang violence, street family violence, and conflict with law enforcement and so on was very real. I grew up in that time. And so hip hop's influence to build a larger perspective for young people to see themselves beyond the moment of the destructive elements of community life and to see themselves into a bigger scenario was just beginning to emerge, right? And seeing hip hop become part of the industries of American society and beyond. So my trajectory has always been that we in the hip hop community, and I must say also, first generation Zulu member, leader in East Harlem, building to try to also navigate the Zulu Nation dynamic of hip hop culture into youth life, right? But I think that from my own trajectory, and I'm really glad to hear what you all are saying and those who are working on the ground, right? That I really do believe that we have to continue to be a force for conversation and for social change. And this issue of police brutality. So I'll say it this way to best kind of keep it really simple, but you know, a multi-layered problem has a lot of layers. And a lot of times people are talking about one or two layers and therefore can't come to consensus, can't come to commonality, can't come to common ground because they're actually talking about different layers of the common problem, right? So, you know, I just want to make a comment about one or two of the layers, okay, if I might be able to. One layer is the stigmatizing, criminalizing of Black and brown people that has gone on in many places as it relates to how law enforcement deals with people of color. The history books are written, the information is there is bias, there is judgment, right? There is criminalization, there is abuse and misuse. So that's a fact, right? That doesn't take away the positives that go on. I have law enforcement members in my own family, and I know law enforcement individuals that are committed to community life, community support, positivity, and so on. But there are some dynamics that have existed and still exist, though they have evolved. And we just seem to be in a moment of identification and recognition of it and escalation, especially in places in America, but not only America, right? So that is one layer of conversation that needs to be addressed. The other layer is, as my brother said, people use the whataboutisms, right, to change the conversational narrative. But there are some dynamics going on in the communities of color as it relates to poverty, criminality, and what we might call negative antisocial behaviors. And hip hop has always been part of the movement to say we need to evolve out of these dynamics as communities of youth, right? We have young people 13, 14, 15 years old in New York shooting each other, right? Perpetuating real violence. But when you have conversations with them, you see that many of them have a trajectory of positivity in other major areas of their lives. So you would never think that that young man would end up shooting another young person, right? But the culture of street life, the culture of the street negatives, right, have continued to find a home in our communities. And it's been very hard for us to challenge ourselves on how do we evolve in these areas, right? Power dynamics between young people, respect dynamics between young people, territoriality, poverty, and attempt to have a better life through negative means, through drug dealing and crime. Those things are very real.
Mhm.
And what they do is they give larger communities fuel for the fire to talk about what we are not dealing with, right? We are dealing with it and have been dealing with it and continue to deal with it. But the forces that keep perpetuating it are very real. And the internal community forces among young people that are invested in this life are very real, right? You know, I've had conversations with young people that have told me, yo, I have to live this way because this is the way it is.
Mhm.
And so when you have a self-perpetuating culture of self-destructiveness, it is not going to change simply by one or two individuals making adjustments. And I think that that's where some of the lessons of hip hop and hip hop's cultural evolution are important, because they demonstrate to us that though law enforcement in the 70s was trying to crack down on gang life, community leaders were trying, hip hop played a major role.
Mhm.
And it's because hip hop and gang life emerged and merged in a way that caused the youth to say, we've had enough. Forget about what anybody else is saying. We've had enough of the murdering and the violence and the inability to move from community to community. And that level of ownership is important today. We have got to get young people to own their own communities
Mhm.
and believe in the possibility of communities being different. Law enforcement is going to continue to treat these things as law enforcement dynamics, right? So young people are committing crime, they're perps, they need to be dealt with as criminals. But there are those who are mindful of social change, right? And real justice and so on. And so we got a big fight ahead of us. We have a really big fight ahead of us. And we all have to be a part of the process. So, you know, that's just a little bit of my being on the ground and working these years and trying to navigate with many sides of the discussion and the work. Sometimes it's very discouraging. And then you see the light shining and you see young people evolving and you see those who are creating change. And then you say, okay, there is hope. You know, there is hope. So I appreciate all the work that everybody's doing and the commitment to the music, because that's a big part of hip hop's life, and the commitment of creating countercultures that can literally infect the minds of young people and move them to a different visionary perspective around anti-violence and transformation. So I'll stop there. I'm sorry if I spoke too much.
Oh my goodness, you could continue speaking. I'm sure everybody would love to learn to you. And I apologize, Dr. Rich, thank you so
That's okay.
much. That is a beautiful introduction to yourself, and also I think even a wider perspective as well, because I believe, like most of us, we all grew up when we hear hip hop, we're introduced, you know, the Mecca of New York, and hearing and remembering when Melly Mel did the message and the whole thing, and you see that video, and he basically sharing, you know, that whole broken glass, that verse comes out, and you're just like, you see the video, you see he's a street journalist, and that's what I believe majority of us, we all came in at different times of our becoming a member and learning to how do we become a member of hip hop and protect and serve, you know, as a community member. And what you just shared right now, I took some information. It is sad that we become survival of the fittest in a how do you pronounce that word? Destigmatizing
Yes.
situation, because the power dynamics and the mental health that is caused from a deeper level. And then some will end up on one side if they only see the strength of survival from gangster to become the power of drug dealing, especially during those times. Like when we watch all these new Netflix programs and it's all about the gangsterism and, the chains and learning why people pose the way they did. And when we see that mentality of hip hop, and it was always because the braggadocious of, I got my money, check my Rolex, and this is why we pose this way. And all of a sudden it becomes within the hip hop mentality. To have power, you have to have either the peace, or a piece of gold to show that I got money. Yeah. And when it comes to that, all of a sudden, like you said, we have multi-layers of problems, because then you have everybody is egotistical instead of using their egos to be more community and allowing to bring more peace and better equal survival. Yes. So yeah, no, I really love that. And I too am a member of Zulu and represent in Sydney, 61. Peace. So it's lovely to meet you, okay? I'd love to get down to the Queens right now. So we got an amazing sis right here, Queen, as a producer. Yeah, I'm looking at you. You better look up.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy today. We would love to hear, of course, not just because you're a woman, but where you're from and where you at and how you, what made hip hop become your mouthpiece, your producer piece, and your sharing your emotions and how hip hop loves and the hip hop generations came into your life to say, yeah, I want to jump upon this project.
Get you off mute, Renee.
At first I thought you were talking to someone else, and I was like, wait, she's talking to me. Hello, everyone.
I'm bigging you up.
What's good, everybody? Rynea Soul here, coming to you from the south of the states, good old Birmingham, Alabama. And so thank you for the question, and I'm very grateful and honored actually to be a part of this amazing panel. Shout out to Dumi. Dumi actually is the one who introduced me to René, who actually introduced me to this entire movement. I know Dumi by way of our next level residency. We were Team Thailand. Go Team Thailand. I was the producer in that group, and Dumi is the MC, the instructor in that group. And so we've been ever since then, and that was what, 2015, Dumi, when we went to Thailand, I believe. And ever since then, 2016, right? And ever since then, we stay in communication with each other, and that's the beautiful part about hip hop diplomacy and working with others, is that you can continue to collaborate to make this thing a bigger movement. And so when he hit me up, maybe 2019, and said, hey, we're doing this thing, and I was like, wait, what? Okay, cool. It struck me because, to be honest with you, I've always wanted to be a part of something like this. When I think about how hip hop is used to, heal communities, right? I think about when KRS-One and D Nice produced this dope track called Self-Destruction, or the Stop the Violence campaign. And I was like, yeah, definitely have to be a part of this. And so what's funny is also the name of our track is Unity, right? That the one that we're on, I think about Queen Latifah and how she used hip hop to talk about violence and abuse against women. And so those two songs right there changed the way I saw hip hop as a teenager. And so my love for hip hop allowed me to create an organization called the Initiative for Creative Arts in Birmingham, where that's what we actually do, is use hip hop to teach youth how to build and contribute to safer communities. And one of the programs, two of the programs that we have is the She Shock Hip Hop Movement or Academy. And that's where, we teach young girls, young women how to, use hip hop as a way to advocate for themselves and for other women and girls as well. And then the second program that we have is called Hip Hop and Social Justice, where we do address a lot of the things that are perpetuated against us in our own community, sometimes by us, sometimes not by us. But how can we teach them how to use not real weapons of mass destruction, right? But use their voices and their lyrics and their talents and art as in their words as weapons, right? To heal their communities, to build their communities. Because, my thinking is that if I have a group of, 5, 6, 7, 10 girls, they are, and also boys, because we have, programs for them as well. But if I can reach them, if we can reach them, they are an extension of the community, right? So they're going back, taking the things that they've learned and placing them into their communities, teaching their friends, teaching their parents, hey, this is what I learned about oppression. This is what I learned about being in a marginalized community. And this is what I'm going to do about it. So, hey, come with me and help me do these things. And so I think, that's important. That's what I always loved about hip hop. So when Dumi asked me about that, I was like, I have to be a part of this new, right? Stop the violence movement, the next self-destruction. And so, this is when I listen to the album, which I've been listening to it just about every day. I'm also using this, by the way, as education for youth that I work with every day. I work with youth every day, where we, talk about these things and also give them an opportunity where I teach, I teach production. I'm not that dope at rhyming, but I teach them about production, and we'll have somebody else to come in and teach them about rhyming. But we step back for a second, right? And let them talk about the things they want to talk about on their song, on the beat they just produced. And what's always interesting to me, they always talk about what? Balance. And so whether it's violence that they see in their community or whether they're talking about perpetrating that violence. And so a lot of people may be taken aback by that and clutching pearls like, oh my God, I can't believe they're talking about these things. But it's important because the truth is, for a lot of them, that's their reality. And so we have to be honest about that's it, like Dumi was saying, in order for us to eradicate this problem, we have to admit that there is a problem. And so when I hear young people talking about the things that they're, going to do, and I always ask them, okay, so tell me why you wrote this, and they'll tell me, well, this is what's happening. This is, and some of them are saying this is what I hear on the radio, but the majority of them are saying this is what's happening. I have a bullet hole in my bedroom from a shootout the other night, or I have, my mom has bullet holes in her car. We don't know, where they come from. So those are the things that we really, use hip hop for, is to address those type of situations. But I think it's important for me and the work that I do in the community is to let them know, hey, I know that these things are happening, but how can you also be a solution to this problem? And so using the Stop the Violence, using our Stop the Violence compilation, I have them, especially those who are writing lyrics that where they talk about perpetuating violence. Listen to what's happening here. I get what you have as far as these things are happening in your community, and you think this is the right way to address your problems or address what's going on. But how can you be the solution? So let's write tracks about being the solution, because I think if they hear themselves over and over and over again talk about being a solution, they're going to become the solution instead of thinking that this is the cool thing to do or this is the way to solve what's happening to me and my community by using violence. The more they keep hearing those things, they're going to become those things. So we flip it. Okay, listen to this track. What do you hear? What are they talking about? Okay, go over here and talk about some things that in your rhyme where you now become the solution. And the more, like I said, the more that they hear that, my hope is that they actually become the solution to a lot of the problems that we see, and that they're the generation that would actually stop this violence from happening in their communities. So yeah.
I love that. It's so true. I think that's the most important work, that it's so important that we see young people becoming the solution. And it's wonderful to hear that you're providing a space for them to be the voice for the next generation, to protect their future and protect we're wow, we're the elders now of our future. And once they realize their power and that they can advocate, not even if I find with arts, have you found, like, when the shyest individual will have the most potent lyrics because they sit and actually see everything so much more in a broader perspective. And then when they write a lyric and you hear it and you're like, oh wow, that's in your mind.
Yeah.
And then when they hear it and they see it and they see other people like-minded, and then they're like, and then you finally see them breathe this confidence and finally say, yeah, this is my strength. This is what I'm good at. And building their ego. I like separating the egotistical and ego. Ego is healthy. And when they feel that inner self say, I self-care, but I want to care for the community and you as a team. What I'd like for the listeners, again, it's a creative arts, but what is the actual name so people can, those that are listening, find it?
Yeah, so the name of the organization is called the Initiative for Creative Arts. It actually started as She-Shock Hip Hop Academy because I was asked back in 2012 to come and teach music production in a high school in one of the communities where I live. And when I went into this workshop, and I love telling this story, everyone was looking for a man. They was like, when is he getting here? Where's the instructor? When is he getting here? And I'm just sitting there listening the whole time. The instructor's there, but being a woman, that's not what they thought. And so what happened was I said, well, hey, everybody, I'm, Miss René. I'm the instructor for your music production. What? And so that tripped them out. And so what happened was, honestly, some of the boys left. And, I never kind of figured out why, but they left, but the girls stayed. And I was like, So I found out that it's more women, it's more girls who are really interested in being a part of music production, engineering, hip hop in general, but didn't think that they could be until they saw me. And I also think representation is very, very, very important. Like all of us here right now today, us being here is very important because now, like you said, we're the elders. Wow, we're the elders, and now we're teaching others to take this a little further, to stand on our shoulders as we're standing on others. And so that's what happened. The program was actually She-Shock Hip Hop. But then I thought about all the other things I wanted to do in the community. And how we can use art to do that. And so, we came up with the Initiative for Creative Arts and put those things, the hip hop and social justice workshop and the She-Shock Hip Hop workshop as programming, because I wanted to reach a wider audience as far as the community is concerned. And so that's really how that whole situation came about back in 2012. And I had been doing it since, with little funding, with a lot of help from some of the artists in the community. And back in 2018, we decided to incorporate it, so we can try to get a little more funding and things like that, which that's a whole nother conversation. And so that's really, where it comes from. But to answer your question, when I work with young people, specifically girls, they are quiet. They are, because because we've been taught as women that we can't boast about ourselves. We can't talk about all of our accomplishments. We can't talk about our talents, because if we're due, we can't do those things, or we can't, talk about how we're feeling. And so, when we get into these workshops, we open the space up for them to just come in and be themselves and find out what they want to talk about and just let it go from there. It can start from a simple, how was your day? Well, this happened at school. And okay, let's make a beat about it. How does that sound? Or let's make a rhyme about it. What do you want to say about it? And so we will find that a lot of them who are shy, they will have the most I can't even tell you, like the most amazing thing, you'll be surprised, you're like, wow, right? Like you said, like you're really thinking about that. And it's also because another thing is because, these things have been bottled in, and they're seeing these things, but not really knowing how to express those things until they get into the program. Now they're able to write freely and make music freely without the judgment. And so, that I think that's really important, is that when we talk about, anti-violence in the community and how we use hip hop to do it, we cannot be judgmental of the ones who come in with lyrics that talk about violence, because like I said before, this is a lot of their reality. Another thing we look at too is, everything that, we do. And when I do workshops, I come in trauma informed, right? Because we have to remember that a lot of our students, a lot of our kids and kids in the community that we work with, they are born in trauma. They wake up in trauma. And so we have to also take that into account, as well. And for us, a lot of times when I work with kids after school, when we think about violence, kind of like, where do these things come from? And we kind of know, where it comes from, people being pushed into low income communities, the whole survival mentality, things like that. But even doing something on anti-bullying, right, could go a long way. And so this summer we did something like that. We did an anti-bullying program, and use hip hop in that way. They did skits, they wrote their own rhymes, they made videos, and now we can put this out so their peers can see this and be like, oh, okay, so I can be a part of this too. So, once again, it's about them being the authors and curators of this movement as well, because it does affect them. And I think that, when people see them doing this, and like I said, representation matter, when their peers see them doing it and how important it is, and that the change they're making in their communities, they'll want to be a part of it too. And so yeah.
That's awesome. It's definitely showing that you're teaching them to be self-educators and educators to the community. And especially I find, I also do stuff like that. Anti-bullying programs, I feel, are so important because you're getting to the root of them now before they become unfortunate perpetrators. It is allowing them now to recognize, oh, wait a minute, I just learned about balance, and I just learned about the beauty versus brutality, the victim versus perpetrators, and that whole thing of, oh, I didn't realize that I can be a perpetrator.
Absolutely.
Okay, maybe I need to change. And you're giving them self-realization, and it's very much we call it, the strength-based scenario, where you're giving them tools to be like, oh, okay, I can be better. I want to be amazing. Yes, Dr. Rich.
No, I just wanted to say I'm always floored. Sister, keep up the good work.
Okay.
This is really what it's all about, right? Individuals who feel committed to seeding the next generation of young people that will shape the next generation and change their generation. So I just want to applaud you for the real work that you're doing, because I think that work, like if they can't get it out and they can't process it, then they get stuck in patterns, right? And so the ability to create spaces for them to work through their own transformation from who they are to where we're helping them be, right? It's like, we know they could do more, be better, change and make, but it's a process to get there.
Right.
And creating the spaces, just creating the spaces that enable them to make that jump, right? Without us relying on the larger world to do it for them, because there's so many things opposed to it. Right. So I just really applaud you. Keep up the great work.
Well, I thank you all very, very much, and for the support. So whenever Dumi asked me, I dropped what I was doing. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be a minute. I'm a little slow with the beats, as he will tell you, but you're gonna get them. René can tell you too. A little slow with that. But yeah, when he asked me, I had to be a part of it, because I just had to be a part of it. So I appreciate all of you for being here and welcoming me here as well.
I would like to say respectfully, the reason why you might be slow with it is only because you're doing all of that, what you just explained. And I believe that's your voice. So you want to make sure those beats, that production is exactly how you feel and is your presence. So by all means, if it takes slow, it's a process regardless. And when it does arrive, you're showing your, that's your verbal through the beat. So
You're right.
regardless how long it takes,
Thank you for
Always
it's
on
amazing
time.
because you just explained everything that you do
Okay.
daily. So hey,
For sure.
don't feel
Always on
bad.
time, Renee. Always
Don't
on
feel
time.
bad.
And when it does come through, it's heat. It's pure
Yeah.
I
heat.
love
So
this. This is so dope. Aisha, I've never met you. So peace, Queen. How you doing?
Thanks. Wonderful. I'm excited to be here. It's so amazing to work on a project for so long with people and not necessarily know them. You know the connection, you know the importance of it, but not necessarily know all of the people. So this is incredible. Thank you. I'm glad that others can enjoy it, but I'm enjoying it myself just to
I would
know that
love
this
to
work is
hear.
done.
I'd love to hear number one, where you're from, where you represent, and what's your passion, and how did all this develop in your life as well?
Absolutely. So I am in Philadelphia right now from Washington, D.C., and have known René since college, lived in New York, worked at a label, came to Philadelphia, and have always had a passion for working with young people, creative, but more business minded. And so I love and appreciate music, but don't make it. So I have had the benefit of working on the marketing, promotions, other side of music. And the more that I learned, the more that I knew that young people could enter in a way that would be beneficial to them in the industry, even if they didn't have the desire to be on the creative side. And so we started Junior Music Executive here in Philadelphia to be able to work with young people that wanted to learn more about the business side of music. And in that, we also always get connected to young creatives who want to make music and who want to know more about both sides of things. And so we partner with other organizations to do production workshops, songwriting workshops, and anything that we can to really inspire them to continue to work in music, but knowing that most of the skills that they gain are transferable into anything that they want to do. And then also being able to help them, as you all are saying, to just process a lot of the things that they may be going through music. And so as a young person, you don't always think about how important it is to have that outlet or that voice, but when things are going on, you need a space to be able to heal, to be able to express. And so our program has been able to do that for a lot of young people, just incorporating both the creative side and then the business side of things. And so René knows that I'm always down for anything that will help our young people grow and thrive. And so initially, our idea was to be able to have students helping with marketing, promotions, getting the word out, that side of things, helping with workshop creation. But we also had some young people that were creating music. And the unfortunate side of this is globally, we're all dealing with violence. And so what our young people in Philadelphia face, they don't always realize that it's something that's happening in other cities and other countries. And so at the same time, we had some students that were creating music that I think mirrors what René was saying. Some of them have things in their lyrics that are expressing what's going on with them or what they're seeing in their communities or what they think their peers will be attracted to. And so them being able to hear this music and to create things that help to counter has been really powerful. And so one of our young women she was in high school when she recorded the song, You Gotta Stop, because there was so much shooting and gun violence in her neighborhood that she was fed up with it. And so we had something called a recordathon here. We did 24 hours at about 8 different studios, and we allowed students to come in for free and to record. And so they had professional producers, they had some artists that were in kind of as mentors and coaches, but allowing them to create what they wanted to in those sessions. And so that was one of the songs that was created. And so Mariah is the young woman who created the song. And so she said she kind of had somewhat of an interest in music, but again, there's not always a lot of support for young women, whether it's in production or in being artists. And so she created the song and then started working in other areas, but it was perfect for this project and for this moment, and translates to so many different spaces. I think it's great for young people to see that the work that they do doesn't just impact themselves and their communities, but can resonate in so many other spaces. So
I think that was probably one of the most important songs, because when you do hear the youth and it's shouted out to you in a good way, it was like, oh my gosh, like that empowerment song. You know, it made so much sense that had to be like, I had no idea what was going to be on volume 1. And then when you listen to it, and it was just like, that stood out. It was like, oh, wow, like this is amazing. Because when you hear a youthful voice, it's never a belittling situation. It makes you, especially as a hip hopper, you get excited because you're like, I remember that tenacity. I remember that excitement to share and learning about your cadence or your message and getting it out and then being a part of something so strong. I wanted to as well, like what I've taken notes from is the creativity and the business that you said, sharing the marketing and promotion. But isn't it what you said, it's transferable, because it's so important if they know about being creative and being a business person, learning structure. So if they feel that they've been introduced to what a positive structure of a business can to be able to market their message, then looking across to the verses of, unfortunately, those individuals that are negative humans that happen to be called themselves police and doing the wrong job. What are those individuals marketing themselves from what they found, like not the organization, but their subculture as a police person of choosing, I want to be a part of this subculture, which is causing violence, and marketing the message that's like, if you don't look like what we feel is safe, and, you know, the versus the perpetrators of promoting a negative stance on, and it's kind of like their business, you know. So at least I'm hoping that young people get to look at the verses and say, wow, their structure is broken. Wow, they're not ready to inspire, and they're not using their partnerships correctly. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like you said, the transferable, they're from you being learning that strength as what a business is and how to market self positively, to look across and go, ooh, that structure is broken.
it's interesting that I went into it thinking they'll learn these transferable kind of tangible skills, how to take a product and let other people know about it and spread the word. But there's so many other skills, because just like you said, being able to understand systems and constructs, but also being able to understand how to just take something from an idea to execution is such a valuable skill right now, because there's so many young and old that have these ideas or dreams or passions and don't know how to get from step 1 to completion. And also understanding, because we talk a lot about, you know, how quick things are, how there's instant gratification, being able to even share with students this project, other projects we've been involved with that you may think are going to happen in a month, a year, that can sometimes take 5 or 6 years, and being able to have that stick-to-itiveness, to be able to have that dedication to something that you really believe in, to get it from that idea, and knowing that it may shift. So we thought it was going to be one project, it's now 3 volumes. We thought it was going to be in 6
Right.
months, it's now a year. I don't even know, Renee. But just all of those different things are so helpful in our everyday life. And so even me going into it thinking, I knew music was a gateway. I knew that it was something that hundreds of kids were interested in, and we would bring them in, allowing them to get their skills in the creative side and in the business side. But there's so many other valuable lessons that they've been able to learn through this project and just working on various projects.
Are you finding as well what they've been learning? Are they learning as well the self-promotion? We're now living in a social media era, you know, from all the different layers of apps. Are they actually utilizing and making statements like, say, on, I don't want to advertise them, but on the apps, to use their social media platform to, yes, send and promote self-confidence and their, yeah, all those amazing creative business ideas, but the structure, but placing it on their social media.
So we've talked to them about a few different things because honestly, I also am aware that I learn as much from them as they learn from me. And so we talk about social media and that personal branding, that even if you have a project or an identity as an artist, that you also want to really share the things that you are about. And so being able to know that when you post stuff and you take it down, it doesn't come down, that when you put stuff out there, even if only one person sees it, it's out there in the universe. And so how to really be able to manage that personal brand, that professional brand, and the messaging that you're putting out. Because if you're putting out destruction and if you're putting out negativity, that stuff is coming back to you. So we do talk about that. But one of the things that I've learned, especially in the last 2 years, and more so last year than anything, is there was a real push that, you know, social media is free. It's free promotion. It's advertisement. You can reach your audience, be out there as much as possible. And the message that a lot of marketing experts or people were sharing with the students is you have to show everything and you have to be on all the time. That's not healthy. And so, especially in the last year, we've talked a lot more about self-care and about not just what you're putting out, but what you're consuming. When you're on social media 24 hours a day and half of your feed is people doing harm or negativity, that stuff is all coming into you. And so, how do you do the unplugging sometimes that you need to? How do you work with your friends to be able to have a team that can post so you can make sure that any information you need to share is out there, but that you are really paying attention to what you're putting out and what you're receiving and how to balance? Because you don't have to be on 24 hours a day to make sure that you're getting your message across. And so we've been able to have really good, helpful dialogue about what are some of the best platforms? What are the things that you need to do to kind of manage your mental health when it comes to social media? And so those are conversations 3 years ago or even 2 years ago, I didn't anticipate having with high school and even middle school students, because young people are accessing these tools at younger ages. And so, and not necessarily getting any parameters around care and what they need to be doing. So
I think it's really important when we definitely speak about self-care and how to manage mental health. I just shared the word self-care on Instagram, and I was like, at present especially, it's a word, either it's thrown around or it's, you know, or it's overly heard, or you get to see it all the time, and it's like, but really and truly, what does it actually mean? And what you just said before, like knowing your personal brand, like, are you authentic? And it's, again, it's like self-care, acknowledging how to be authentic with that. Like, how do I self-care? Like, what does that mean? And a lot of people, when they say, you know, believe in yourself and love yourself, some people, if they're not brought up in a strong foundation, someone would say, yeah, but that's you're loving yourself, which means you're egotistical. You're like, stop saying that you love yourself, like, you know, and then putting them down and then becoming like this really crazy stigma upon it, like, oh, she loves herself, like, and instead of celebrating it, like, and it just shows you how, unfortunately, easy and negativity can sneak in and propel. And then eventually, if it's not self-care, self-love, you become, unfortunately, perhaps maybe a young person to adult, that causes brutality because you never really got taught from your foundation, oh, it's
how
healthy
important
to
it
love.
is and how,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, thank you, Aisha. That was amazing. We're
Thank
definitely
you.
going to keep going. I just like making sure we introduce so many people. I'm trying to see who else. Yes, Serge, peace, man. How you doing?
Yeah, nice to
Welcome.
see you.
Howdy
Yeah,
doody.
all good. Yeah, I'm doing good.
I
How
would
are
love for
you?
you to introduce yourself and share where you're from, where you're at, and how did you get to meet the whole Hip Hop Loves family?
All right, all right. Thank you for the introduction. I'm sorry I've been a little bit late today because I've been confusing the time zones, but I really enjoy the conversation. So many things that I can agree with about the positivity and the environment, about the educational issues. So I'm agreeing with everything been said before. And I'm from Moscow. We're basically making projects connected with the stop shooting, and we started like a project 2 years ago connected with the troubled teenagers, and we've been doing workshops initially been transformed into a longer project, like a year long and then a 2 year long. And then we've been communicating with René, and he was telling about Stop Shooting project. And then we realized that our project that we've been actually doing with the troubled teenagers, with the music, with the hip hop, used as a tool to ease those tensions, ease some sensitive questions in our society. So it was really coinciding with the project that René proposed to be a part of, and we felt that we're like a part of the bigger community, and the other people in the other countries, they have very similar problems and very similar attitudes in sense of resolving it. So it was so amazing to analyze that we're a part of something bigger, and we're still doing that kind of project. It is called Hip Hop Socially Best. So I can drop a link into the chat for you to check out some information. We have our website of Hip Hop Union. It's our like big Russian unity that is dealing with the social hip hop. And so this is like a project inside our a bigger community of hip hop dedicated people that are decided to change something in the bigger society, and to bring the social well-being, to inspire the other people to empower the others. So and the issue of the gun shooting in Russia is becoming more and more actual nowadays, because not long ago, like 2 months, it was again shooting in the school in Kazan city, and again we analyzed that our work is very important, just to let the people know that hip hop can heal from this, and can help through music, through dance, through graffiti art, through poetics of rap and everything. So we can use this as a tool to construct a kind of a mutual understanding, and construct a field for the art making, maybe to shift a little bit of that troubled mindset that is making a lot of troubles to our society. So that was our initial passion to make this project live. And we also have been contacting with several universities in Russia, and they were really interested in like making a kind of a project with the students also, because we've been working with kids of school age, like from 8 years old to 16. It's more like teenagers, but then we've been also inviting students to make it more like mixed groups, and it was like good experience. We also tried several times to attract people of the older age, and it was also a good connection when we used like hip hop as a tool, but it was like the crowd of the people of different ages, like from teenagers, then we're like about 30 years old, and like their grandfathers and grandmothers, and it was like very nice connection too. Yeah, and we also have been using music as our main vehicle, as a main tool. So the music production and rap music was our main thing, but then we also add another elements like dancing and graffiti writing also been engaged a lot. And finally, we've made like a big performance when René also chanced to go to Moscow with Mirrah 139 and some other guys from the United States. And it was really cool that we made that connection of the teenagers that were making the show on the scene, and guys been also a part of that. And it was like international connection on air. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And finally, as far as I know, guys that were considered to be troubled, they were in a special list of troubled teenagers officially. So we have that like from the state body when police is like putting them in that certain list. And after our classes, after that performance, they had a chance to go out of it. And so finally they were like not forced to be in the program, but they decided to prolong it somehow. And still I know that some guys from our group, they're still in case and they're still making music. So I think the impact of our project is really good, and I'm glad that we recorded this verse for the Hip Hop Clubs Foundation, and it was a big step also because it makes like worldwide, it makes international, and it's really important for the teenagers, as it helps them maybe to make career in the music, and maybe helps to define themselves through the music, and maybe it makes them more free in sense of sharing their feelings and sharing their thoughts. And that's very important, very important. So, and I agree with Rynea that I've been listening, and she's been telling about emotional part of the process. This is very important too, and I fully agree. Yeah, this is very brief from my side. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really love what you were sharing. And what I've noticed that when it comes to countries and continents that's not necessarily from Western society, like Australia, you're saying like in Russia, you're getting back to the roots of the culture, like you're introducing the young kids to the elements, like actually showing the root of where hip hop stems from, and you guys still keep it alive, whereas maybe the Western world forgot about it, and now it's more the industry and not the culture anymore. And you're still at the beautiful birth of creating with young people and showing self-initiative, self-power, how to be a voice for Moscow, how to be a voice for Russia, allowing your troubled mindset to now be heard verbally or physically when you dance, and exert that energy out and show that your power and show this amazing grace or strength that you have on a dance floor, and using rap and hip hop as a vehicle. And it's really nice to hear that as an organization, you're providing that space for young people to be like, yeah, we're bringing culture, like this is the elements, and I definitely can empathize with that, because Australia is the same. When you go to an event, you've got the b-boys, you've got the graffiti, you've got this, and then you're standing there going, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a little version of New York, you know what I mean? And it gives you this exciting feeling to go, yeah, this is hip hop, but oh my God, I'm in Russia. Like, so it's great that you're providing that space. I wanted to ask you, obviously, we're not from Russia, we're not in Moscow. And in our minds, ignorantly, we have no idea what trouble is, or we may have an idea from movies of when we think of Russia, and when I think of Russia, I think of it's a strong political movement. It's very strong. And then when I think of creativity, I kind of go, oh, is it allowed? You know what I mean? Like, cause you just always see the marching as a kid when I watch TV, that beautiful, the Moscow, the beautiful, is it like castle, but
Kremlin.
The Kremlin, you see that and it's cold, and it's like, what, if you don't mind, what are the cold parts? What are the cold aspects that are truly there, not of just weather, not of like, what are the cold situations that are going on for young people feeling threatened and needing to be heard? Like, educate us on that.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, but I think Dumi was like raising his hand. Maybe we'll let to talk.
Now, go ahead. I'll follow right behind you because I'm interested in the answer to that question too. Let us know what's
All
going
right.
on from your part of the
All
world.
right. I can say a lot answering this question because yeah, really we're still we still got to deal with that superstitious about Russia that is like post-communist country, and we've got a lot of restrictions about that image of political part that our community don't really want to be a part of in sense of that image of strong and powerful and super authoritative. In that sense, we just try to be more artistic oriented and maybe oriented on more social well-being aspects. And but yes, still we have a lot of restrictions in sense of mind of powerful people that are taking decisions on the spot, like state authorities. And it's sometimes it's really difficult to explain that hip hop could be a good tool for easing some social sensitive questions, or it could be helpful in artistic sense, or it could build some mutual understanding on the international level. So it's still sometimes considered to be a kind of hooliganism or some deviant behavior, and it's really complicated to in some cases, but sometimes it's okay. I would say that on a Moscow regional level, it's becoming okay to say that you are from hip hop organization. It's less and less questions for the last decade, I would say. Everybody is starting to know that breaking is a part of the Olympics, and we have a strong movement in most of the bigger regions of Russia, and that's a big argument to say, oh, that breaking becoming Olympic, and that's no questions there. But still, in some regions, when you go there, they could be asking some additional questions, like we've been making in May one project in Kazan with the guys from the United States, and we've been making the Zoom session with Beatmaker, and we've got some concrete questions. What will be there? Is it safe? Is that considered to be political or only art? So we have a lot of superstitions regarding guys involved in that communication from the United States, especially. And but we are okay with that, and finally we find a way to negotiate somehow to explain that what we are doing is more about empowerment and art, not about politics itself, and that's becoming more and more easier for the last year, I would say, despite that sensitive political relations about all that. Cold War. Somebody is starting to tell me that it's Cold War again in Russia and US, but still I would say that's this is not that Cold War that been in the 60s and 70s. Now it's like different times. We're living in 2021, and we have like Zoom, we can talk, we can communicate, internet and new technologies that makes difference really. And that's very important thing when we speak about some confirmation of what you are doing. I think, yeah, this is the answer. That's
awesome. Thank you, Sergi. Dumi, it's your turn. I'd love to hear your perspective or your share, how you guys know each other as well.
Yeah, no, it's just I think just a couple quick things I wanted to highlight was just the beauty of the fact of how people from all these different countries have come together in unity. And like Rynea Soul said, bringing different voices and different experiences, because I think it's that richness of experience that informs and brings people into the tent, right? So you highlighted something about the message being like an early impact on you. And there's the same for me. I was in Zimbabwe, no idea what's going on. I left the US when I was very little. I was upstate New York, so didn't know what was going on in Bronx or in the city. And hearing those poignant stories from somebody on the front lines that can articulate it. And that was like the first rhyme I started to try to emulate, right? A broken glass everywhere. And there's like stuff in there that I couldn't follow along with. And so the thing I want to emphasize, just based on what we've talked about, is presenting a model of what could be, right? Because we can all talk all day about what is and what we don't like. And a lot of times I think our youth, that's what they grow up. All of us, or many of us, do workshops. And like you said, the youth will repeat what they see in popular culture. For some of them, it's a truth and reality. But for some of them, that's what I know. If I grow up and the only thing I hear as a teenager and starting to listen to my own music is gangster rap, I'm going to think that that's what I need to do. I need to come out with this bravado and this swag and talk about. And I've seen that in real life, going into elementary schools, and we're all writing rhymes about who we are, right? And it's like, okay, that's an easy place to start. Just write a couple bars about who you are. And somebody's talking about pulling up on the block and running up on these dudes. And I got the pill. And I'm like, oh, you're not really doing that. He's like, oh, but that's what I hear. And so through projects like these, I think the goal, the beauty of it is to present a model, right? You see that self-destruction, posse cut, one of hip hop's finest moments. And if that's your experience coming into it, that's what you will continue to, put out there. It's that thing of changing a vicious cycle where violence begets violence into a virtuous cycle where you preach peace and positivity. And I think people like to shy away from that. Oh, no, I'm not a conscious rapper. I am a conscious rapper. I do not want to be unconscious, right? I'm not sleepwalking. We all are conscious, and we're telling people what's going on, but with a perspective of how we would like it to be, showing them a more beautiful future than what we are in the present. And even if we can't see it and don't know it, maybe we can envision it, because we are creative. I mean, that's why a lot of hip hop intersects with sci-fi, and I'll just leave it here. When I see in the future we're doing things and we could be better than we are, and things could change, and we could have this dynamic range of, call us the Avengers or whatever you want to be, your favorite comic book analogy of people from all these different places, and Mirrah's in Australia, and she's going to swoop in and she's going to drop a gem and explain it like this, and she's going to help make this world better. It's inspiring and uplifting, and that's what I think we need to be.
I love that, the hip hop Avengers. I can just picture everybody in there. Come in, let's go. Back to you, Sergi. I really love that you shared that you're working with 8-year-olds to 16-year-olds, and those teenagers that have come in that were known, unfortunately advertised to the community as dangerous and hooligans. And, after they've been with your project, have they noticed their own self-disciplinary and strength and self-care, and also have seen that they can rebuild their inner community? Are they changing, and have the outer community seen their maturity and strength as well?
Yeah, good question. A good question. First, I agree with Dumi 100%. Yeah, that what he's been saying. Yeah, and answering your question, first, I gotta say that it took really some time to build our bridges inside our group, and it was not so easy process from the early beginning. It took like a month or two. When it was okay, then we were a part of the project, so we got to get acquainted, we got to raise their interest to the issue, because everybody knows what hip hop is, but when it's when we have approach to the production, when we have approach to something regular, it becoming really, really work. It's really work to have that set up properly. And yes, when we started to make the project regularly, then I saw that, you know, we have some movement inside our group dynamics. And of course, there were some good achievements in sense of representation, how they've been changing their minds and behavior and attitude to the production and to the other, you know, like homework at school and everything, their relation with the parents. And generally I have that conclusion after this project, that we have to invest more our attention as the teachers, as an organizers. We have to invest our time and attention to the teenagers' life, because sometimes it seems to me that they just want some space where they can relax and where they can talk to somebody and to say that they have troubles, they have some issues in their life. But sometimes it seems to me that they are becoming considered troubles just because the lack of that attention from the, you know, from the other guys, from their peers, from the parents, and from the state authority, etc. So this is very important to my mind, just to invest more time, to invest more attention, and to invest more work in that. Yeah, but generally, yeah, I see a lot of changes after our project, and now we are thinking about next phase to extrapolate a little bit to the other regions, and maybe to start another 2 groups in St. Petersburg. This is another biggest city of Russia, and René, so he has been there and checked out their community also. And so now we have a lot of plans for the future, how we can, you know, launch a couple like projects, maybe attracting also another hip hoppers from the another regions, because you may know Russia is a big country and it's lasting from the Europe part to the Asian part. And we have like partners like more than in 15 regions of Russia, from Yakutia on the far east to the northern part and to the southern part. And now we're thinking how to manage the different groups of people. So it's becoming more strategic after the experiences we have in Moscow. Now we're thinking how we can, you know, to share our experiences to the teachers, to the another hip hop centers, and maybe to make it live in the whole Russia. So this is our ambitious plan, but I think it makes sense also if you're making a project like that. It's also refers to the Stop Shooting project. I think Hip Hop Labs, it's all about the same, to have some ambitions to spread it to the bigger world. And I think it's very important part. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. René, you had a question.
I was actually just going
No,
to.
no, sis, Rynea Soul has.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
My bad. No, not you, René. No, I'm messaging you.
No, real quick, I'm just reflecting on what Dumi was saying about, you know, we can talk about certain things all day, right? But the action, creating a model. Because when, you know, when we talk about violence, when we think about violence, there are other things that contribute to that, right? We have racism, classism, patriarchy, misogyny. So we can say, okay, let's address violence right here, but we have to also address those other things, those roots that contribute to violence. And violence is about, you know, power and control, right? So when you talk about a model, Dumi, what does that look like for you when you talk about creating a model?
I think it's letting folks know kind of the pathways, right? And what things they can do or what opportunities they have. Because I think a lot of times we're limited by the sphere of our own knowledge, right? And so it's giving people more perspectives and talking about, like you said, okay, so if somebody is talking about lyrics of violence and saying, no, don't do that, that's wrong, this is right. But instead of doing that, saying, well, why are you coming from that perspective? And it could be, I heard it on the radio, it could be, I lost a friend. It could be something just happened in my neighborhood. And then now we've got a bigger dialogue of, oh, has anybody else gone through that? And how did that make you feel? Do you have resources to reach out and talk to people? Because I think a lot of times we don't get to the root of what's going on and we address the symptom, right? You've got a cold, and so I'm going to give you a decongestant, but maybe there's something in the environment that's causing that. So I think when I was saying that, it's like figuring out what's going on, you know, where are these kids coming from? What's their background? Not being judgmental and having that open space. Because Sergey hit it on the head. He basically answered the question. Do you have somebody to talk to about that? Are you troubled because you're having troubles? You know what I mean? And so these people have trouble and they're looking for help, and instead they get correction or punishment, right? And so I think that's important. You know, like it's bigger than hip hop. You know, it's not just these rhymes we're writing. So whenever I'm doing a rhyme workshop, that's just a tool. That's just a road that we're on to get to a certain point based on where the people are at. And the thing I think, and I learned this when we did our trip, is meet people where they are. You know, don't come with a prescribed block and like, this is how it's going to go and whatever. Like, I mean, when I got to Thailand, they threw out the book because we were having language, you know, trying to communicate and figure out and see, oh, well, actually these people's familiarity with certain things. So I think it's really important to just delve into, you know, who are the folks we're dealing with on a human level, you know what I mean? And then the music is just what brings us together. That's why they sat down at the table. Now let's have the conversation. And then I think by putting out things like this project, you have things that they can look at and be like, oh, so I can also talk about that. Well, I can talk about violence with a solution behind it, or I can talk about this is what I see, this is the pain that it causes me, as opposed to celebrating violence, which I think is where the issue is with mass media and commercial radio. I'm going to celebrate that I did this to somebody, I perpetrated, not that I saw this and it affected me and I'm sad because of it and I would like it to be different.
Awesome, thank you. And so that goes on to what am I saying it right? Is it Asia or Aisha? Because
Aisha.
Aisha, okay, she spells her name the same way. And what Mirrah said, you know, thinking about self-care, and I know, you know, when we think about self-care, we're hearing it more now, but it's more so on a commercial type of deal. Same thing with mental health. Now it's becoming a little more commercial. So it also goes back into addressing the trauma and the mental health, I think, as well. Like they mentioned, that would contribute, that would also be a part of the model that you were talking about. So thank you for, you know, clarifying that for me. I appreciate that.
I think this is an interesting next step for us with the Hip Hop Loves Project, is that because we have workshops and programs and are doing work in so many different spaces, to be able to even take some of those things that have worked in our models to be able to provide them to other people, because it's interesting to hear. We may language it a little bit different, but like Sergey mentioned, providing that safe space. We learned after about a year that we couldn't just dive right into our workshops, because we sure had like a whole structured curriculum of this is what we want to get done in these, 90 minutes that we have. But after the first few weeks, the students were coming with so much stuff, we had to start doing check-ins. So before we could even dive into this is how you produce or this is how you write, we spent at least 20 minutes with how are you doing? What's going on? And being able to have that safe space. And so I think, we could even, whether it's through Google Doc, just share some of our best practices or lessons learned for this model.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I think that what everybody's saying is very important. I do a lot of work with young people in prevention and intervention. And the heart of the work, like there are some concepts that are in your conversation, right? That are critical to being successful in this type of work, where you're using arts and education as tools to create change and personal development. One thing you all said was creating a safe environment, right? That's one. The second thing that you all said is allowing for personal voice, right? You have to allow the person to feel like this is a space where I can express what my experience is, right? And next with that, integration of voice into practice. So if you're allowing young people to have a voice, you don't dismiss it afterwards. You understand? You don't discredit it afterwards, but you actually allow it to become a part of the process, right? And then really understanding how your particular art form can be used as a tool, right, for transformation and empowerment, right? Consciousness raising and so on. So I just want to say that you all are on to a lot, right? And a lot of great work is going on. And this kind of equipping is necessary for the ones who want to do the work that's being done. There are a lot of people that are doing great work with hip hop as art forms, but what they lack is the concepts that are manifesting in this conversation, right? How to go from arts-based work, right, to empowerment and intervention work. What's the keys? And the things that y'all are saying are part of that formula, right? That enables you to use any different approach, but these are the patterns. Like, I'm sorry, you're not going to get this if you don't give them voice, right? You're not going to get this if you want to just have them fit your model and fit your curriculum, right? So there are some non-negotiables that come with moving beyond just arts and into real intervention. So I applaud you all for the work and the conversation.
Thank you for the work that you do as well. You talk about intervention and prevention. I work with a lot of students who are also on the diversion side. And so, yeah, thank you as well. I'm with my pen writing notes from everyone.
That's why I just said in the chat, I need the recording. I need because a lot of this is stuff that it took quite a while to learn, and then knowing that a lot of it already exists, like you said, we can share it with people that I think do have that same intent to really be able to move the needle with young people in this way. Thank you, Natalie.
Hey, Raquel, how's your internet working right now? We would love to hear, some words from you, because you're kind of like the backbone of this whole operations too, because everyone getting connected together, like, you played a very intricate part with this project too. So I wanted to just give you, definitely give you your flowers, because it's always a beautiful thing. And I know you a lot of us sacrifice stuff, but everyone has the jobs. But Raquel be at her main job, and then being on the side trying to put all this stuff together and all these different items together. So I definitely want to, give you props for everything you do and, bringing the world together with this. So yeah, to, share a few words if you don't mind. You hear us.
Let's try. My connection is not very good, so I'm having some problems with connection. I apologize for that. When the first time that you talked to me about the album Stop Shooting, I love the idea, because I know how important hip hop is just as a tool for change, and the idea of unifying artists from 25 countries with just one message: stop shooting. For me, that's hip hop. So that's unity, working together for peace, and represent the real values of hip hop. So peace, love, and unity. And that's beautiful. And the other thing that I love is the idea that we are working together just to get funds to create educative programs to bring support to those communities that have real problems with violence. So this is not the case, or we have violence, of course, that we have violence in Spain, but it is not like the kind of violence that we can find in the US, for example, or in Latin America, or in other countries. But because of my networking, working with globally with people from all over the world, I can see how powerful the use of hip hop is when we try to bring education and empowerment to youth that are living in the very violent communities, and they really need support. So I was very excited. I'm very excited to keep working through Generation Hip Hop. I had the opportunity to see the work that our brothers and sisters are doing in different countries. And many of them are working in a very hard situation of violence because they have really big problems about gangs, and they can see teenagers wearing gangs. That is something that we can see in Spain, for example. So that is a reality that is not familiar for me, but I know about it because of my connections with my brothers and sisters all over the world. So I think that it's important to work all together just to bring support to your communities and to the youth, all about to stop this violence on the streets.
Thank you. Important. Mirrah, before I pass it over to you, I just wanted to share on a couple of things that were mentioned. Like one thing Dr. Rich mentioned about the layers. I think, the layers is an important piece of that, and I think sometimes what occurs, like when you have just different issues, when there's layers to the issues, at times what separates us sometimes is because people identify to either one layer or a couple of layers and then feel one layer is like more important than the other layer. And then it becomes this like shift amongst that when we just got to all identify to each layer, whatever layer you're attracted to, and create a solution around that layer, not making one better or worse than the other. Like just know that this is all piece of that. And once we resolve it, it's true. And I think the mental health thing that everyone's kind of been talking about during this whole conversation is very huge. And I'm gonna relate to a workshop that me and Aisha did in Philly. Is about what's that 2000? It might have been 17, and it was about stop shooting. Actually, we had the kids, we had the teenagers all in the room. We were talking about the different items and kind of we were breaking down, like to record a song. And what came out of that 2-hour session was like a lot of just sharing, a lot of vulnerability, and it was about 12 youth during that session. 9 out of the 12 youth admitted that they had some real serious, either actions or close to actions of committing suicide. So think about that. That's like 75% of the people in that workshop either attempted or had a serious connotation of this new word. And these are teenagers. So think about what's happening with mental health around it. And we're really telling some real like graphic stories on the gun violence, Tough in the Hood, and things that people, what they've observed, the trauma that's happened. And I think what occurs is that we get to a point here of like with gun violence and brutality of normalizing it. Oh, well, this is what just happens in the hood, or this is what is supposed to be done, and that's something we have to break. And also the bullying factor is important too, because there are some of the cops, honestly, that are a part of this issue were a subject, and they were bullied at a young age, and then they needed to find a structure and be something of power where they can feel they can inflict that, and they never healed off of that bullying, and they're using this authority to inflict that on others. And that's something, that I think we have to find ways to address these items too, not, just with the youth, but with adults as well, because, we as adults also have to continue the healing. So yeah, I just want to pass it over to you, Mirrah.
No, I really felt that is exactly, everyone says it. It's absolutely the truth of what you just shared. It all stems from, and Dumi actually said we have to definitely talk about the traumatic, where the root of these, unfortunately, issues stem from, because it does come from when they were young, and now they're adults. And what we were sharing before, it's unfortunately the negative process. You become a bully, and then if you are, unfortunately, they say, if you bully an animal, that unfortunately is a triggering effect to become a murderer, a psychotic individual, because you're now using an animal it's an innocent subject, and they can't necessarily, they don't know, they can't speak. So it's like as if when you're speaking to a young person, and a young person may not know their human child rights. And if someone of power comes in and says, hey, you look like the person, you are the person, and their mind's still learning, and they're trying to still have this initiative, like, how do I fight this? But this person that I'm supposed to trust, that we're always shared at school or at home, if it's not from certain areas, you know, you should trust the police. You should trust these individuals. They are the ones that protect you. And then all of a sudden you're conflicted because you have an unfortunate situation that occurs that, wait a minute, this person's not here to protect me. They're actually putting this energy upon me and making me feel really unsafe. You know, the trauma experiences. I now wanted to get in, we've spoken about that. I really would love to ask now, and it really, whoever, put your hand up if you'd like to answer, because we all address such important, so much information just through your introduction. What have been the positive and not positive items, the way hip hop has attributed to this topic of gun violence and police brutality? Like, what have been the positive and non-positive situations that you have felt? And maybe I should open it up, flesh it out more of, did you feel that people wanted to be active? Did you feel the community wanted to be more active about it? Or did they go, whoa, no?
All right, Steve, do you have any thoughts about that?
Maybe I'll say 5 Steves. Yeah.
Could you repeat the question? Let me think about it some more as you speak it again.
Yeah, what were there more positives when this subject came up, and then you actually announced it to perhaps the community of hip hoppers, where they were like, oh wow, yeah, let's do this? Or was there a conflict, maybe some egos, you know, like, oh, I don't think you should talk about this? And, you know, because sometimes a lot of people may not wish to show the weakness of their community. But then when it comes to police brutality, it can also be as well, like, yo, we need to speak, but then you never know, does the mayor come in? Do people are like, whoa, what's this project you're about? We just heard about it through the grapevine, because maybe a young person announced it to their parent, and then the parent shared it to the uncle, and the uncle knows the police person. You know, we don't know how the beautiful wordplay can deliver a message, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, he say, she say. But you're just like, I just want to spread the message of acknowledging what's going on, and we're letting young people have a voice to be heard and how they feel about the destructiveness of our community.
Okay, well, in my specific instance, I will share a little bit, but I also speak generally. Now, in my specific instance, the song that I did was with a brethren, a friend of mine, Nomad Carlos. We're in a group together, the Council of the Gods. And it was a simple conversation. What really, as I say, what prompted the song earlier for us was a real life situation that allowed us to say, okay, now we can start writing, because something happened that just prompted you to start writing, you know? But in terms of doing music like this or addressing certain things in the music, it's never been an issue for me or my peers, because we've always leaned towards that side. And the local hip hop community generally tends to be sort of quote unquote conscious, especially because we're in a place like Jamaica where you have reggae music, you have the influence of Rasta. So even artists who don't really identify with Rasta are still influenced by something like that. So you tend to have a certain level of consciousness in the music that we make, the hip hop music that we make locally. Now, listening to the entire conversation the past 2 hours, I had some general thoughts. So when you talk about like the negatives and the positives, when it comes to hip hop and gun violence, I think one of the first negatives is, unfortunately, for a lot of people who are not a part of the culture, and even people who are a part of the culture, but because of the exposure to it, it's almost like hip hop has become synonymous with gun violence, which is ironic given where it is coming from, you know, where there was a time where people were moving away from violence and crime because of hip hop. So it's unfortunate that that is how the genre is perceived. But at the same time, there's a flip side where I think almost anything goes in hip hop. And I've heard some of you say it, where you have these sessions with youth And some of the things that they talk about are maybe not what you want to hear, but at the end of the day, this is their reality. This is something that they're feeling and they have a need to express it. And that is why it's very important to have no judgment. And I think hip hop is very much a genre like that, where people can come forward and be who they are, tell their stories, their sides. And I think that's why it's a perfect tool for personal development and the work that you guys are doing, because another genre, another art form, another method may not allow these people to vent or feel comfortable doing so. And even if they felt an inclination to do so, the space may not be safe for them. But hip hop is that safe space for pretty much everyone to come forward and to share their story. So I think it's very important for us to allow people to express themselves. But those of us who have a certain consciousness now, we just have to try and educate others, and help them in their journey on their way. So big up to everybody with the work that you're doing. I mean, I'm here listening. I haven't spoken much, so I'm really just learning as well, just listening and soaking up everything that you guys have to say.
I think it's really important, you're never long-winded. I just want to let you know, your information of what you share is always treasured. So don't ever think it's long-winded. I love what you said. And also we've been showing the word consciousness. And I felt like, if you guys agree, don't you feel like self-care and consciousness, it was a word, especially as hip hoppers, consciousness, when it was thrown out, thrown at people, it was like, oh, you one of them, and oh, like, I'm just trying to party, like, you just, and I'm like, as a fellow hip hopper, I'm like, I grew up to hip hop when it used to be conscious, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a 74 baby. I grew up to hip hop before hip hop was called hip hop. Like, I met hip hop in 1978, and there was this movement of just self-expression. And then when they finally spoke about something, it was the street journalism. You spoke about the real, you spoke about what's going on in the community. So I feel like sometimes, just before 5Cs, do you feel, because in Jamaica, stereotypically, you have reggae that always announces consciousness. It's a strength based of it, but then parallel to it, you have as well, unfortunately, what some would say anti-gay, the degrading of women, all this, that side of it as well. But that's the same in all music aspects. Everyone's gonna have the verses. There's always the yin and yang. But when people look at hip hop, learning what you just said in Jamaica, the perspective of hip hop is the violence, but now being introduced to the project and also more consciousness involved, are people now opening up like, oh, wow, this is a platform where young people can share conscious, positive, strength-based thoughts in Jamaica?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, hip hop is not really the popular culture here, but within the local scene, though, I can tell you that is a perspective, because the people who are in touch with the culture locally, they are pretty much rooted in it, whereas the masses, or most people, it's really what they're exposed to on social media, radio, maybe TV, the pre-MTV, BET generation, etc. So that has shaped their idea of hip hop. Anyone who is into the genre pretty much knows what hip hop offers, and that is pretty much all encompassing. So you can find what you want, and you can lean one direction or the other. I heard a mention earlier of gangster rap, and I kind of wanted to add that some of my favorite gangster rappers are those that really talk about, and me and my peers talk about this all the time, that good gangster rap should give you the cause and the consequence. Should understand why someone, even if they don't say it explicitly in the music, should understand why they went a certain direction, or why they are, or how they came to be like that. And you should also understand the consequence, because I think a lot of times there's a glorification, and people are not really putting that context there for people to understand that, yeah, you can do this and celebrate for a while, but eventually it's going to lead to certain outcomes. And one rapper who I think made that like a major message for himself was Saigon. I don't know how much guys were familiar with Saigon, but I was a big fan of Saigon at one point in time because it seemed like one of the things that he wanted to drill and get home to everyone was that, look here, this life that he chose brought certain consequences, and that is not really being told to the youth. So he wanted to highlight that. So I respected that highly. And I think certain rappers who come from a certain background or really have certain quote unquote street cred, I like when they have that message where they're able to translate it to people who come from that same walk, and probably show them how they can make their way out. Another person who I think is good at that is a Carmega, and also a Nipsey Hussle as well. I think Nipsey, ex-person who was very much driven, and that was his life mission. You know what I mean? So those are three rappers that I think about who you could classify as gangster rappers, but when you look at what they're doing with their music, there's obviously a mission to empower people, and empower people that came from the bottom really, and came from the same circumstances that people may look down upon and may not want to help people out of because it's so ugly. But there's only certain type of people that can do that work, and it's people who sometimes are very familiar with these situations.
You know, Five, can I just make a comment that you hit on something? Is that possible?
Yes, please, Dr.
Come on, go ahead.
Brother, you know, you hit on something that goes past people quickly, right? And it's that becoming a street poet, right, is a journey. And hip hop overall, from its inception to commercialization and on, has been a multi-identity genre. And because it's a multi-identity genre, people often want hip hop to have a single identity, be it party culture, be it, right, the poetics, be it, right, you understand what I'm talking about. But the reality is, people come from different backgrounds and experiences, and they introduce something to the culture. And when real conscious, and I don't use it pejoratively, I mean it from the sense that you just said, right? Real hip hop poetics, right? Like early poets in the African-American community in the 60s, that real poetic movement takes the truth and says, this is what's in your face, right? And what are we gonna do about this? This is what's in your face. And it really lays it out. And early on, kind of the one that triggered stuff for people was Melly Mel's, The Message, and them, right? But on the ground, so let me say this. Mel once said, when I was first introduced to the concept, me and my other brothers said, what are y'all talking about? Right? That ain't gonna work. We about to party. But that was their trigger moment, right? When the record company said, we'd like to do something on another level. And what it did was it opened a doorway for Mel to evolve himself. You understand? But my point is, the message didn't come from Mel per se. It came by introducing another identity to what Mel and his peers were about. You understand? And so all of these years, hip hop internally has been fighting over what's its identity. And the reality is, it's a multi-identity genre, right? And the party phase is part of it, and all of it is a part of it legitimately. It really is about, when you talk about hip hop social change, then there's a pathway there that is very demanding. And not everybody has the wherewithal, the willingness, the commitment, the investment to be about that, right? But we shouldn't cause the community to be polarized. Follow what I'm talking about? Like, to really be polarized, like, but to actually say that, hey, I'm happy that we got 40 years of music to celebrate. You know what I'm saying? Good, bad, left or right, up and down. We got 40 years of good music to celebrate. And I'm happy to have that legacy. But somebody's got to be the voice. Somebody's got to be the conscious voice, right? And then let everybody party if they want to party. You know, let them have fun if they want to have fun, because that's where the culture came from. you know, and to lose that peace, unity, love, and having fun, we lose a lot. And I say only that said because everything that all of y'all are doing that works with young people, those young people have to have their fun moment. Those young people have to have their, how do we enjoy ourselves in life? You know, and a lot of times we who are about the social change forces of hip hop want them to come up, if you get my point, want them to come up. But the reality is partying is not being down. Fun is not being down. Joy is not being down, right? It's a part of the reality of what makes life enjoyable, right? And how to infuse that. So I really do appreciate, Five, everything you're saying. You know, it really is critical. It's so important. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was exceptional. And that was a perfect segue as well that I wanted to talk about, because I actually want to go around to the more smaller countries in the sense of the Western world. So like MD and Surge, because you guys are coming from such a different aspect. And like I was saying before, like really proving the elements of the multi identity of the genre. I really love that, Dr. Rich, that it was like, whoo, whoo, profound, like one of those fireworks, pow, 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 without the guns, just fireworks and happiness. Woo, 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 pow, 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 pow. But
that was
MD,
funny.
that's me. MD, I really wanted to ask you, when hip hop came into Indonesia's thought process, and I mean, I'm just going to be real, how are us as Black people, our culture, is there the stereotype of, to some, of what they see on TV and how we're advertised as, you know, violent thugs, the whole aspect in hip hop with the jewels, the, you know, materialism and everything. But then like we said, the beautiful multi-identity of the genre, the whole scope of looking at the other side, whereas there's consciousness, there's political movement, there's, you know, this empowerment side. And both sides actually are empowering. You're empowered here because you've created a business, you've made money, but is it empowering the community? Not necessarily. It's only empowering themselves because it's money, it's dealing. But then you have this side where the community of consciousness, where it's empowering. And which side was introduced to you first to then pull back and say, hey, there's other layers, and being a hip hopper, I want to be a part of this side, which is the consciousness side. Yeah, I'm interested to hear from an Indonesian, how was the perspective of Black people and hip hop's culture?
So yeah, I first started with the party side because it was fun back in the days, right? The dance side, you know, all the young love to dance, love to party, of course. We love to have fun, right? We need to enjoy this life, real though. But yeah, on the other side, when we getting old, when we grew up, we saw problems. We saw problems, and then I started to pick up some record from a cassette store. I started digging some. I started digging some rap music that I like, which is uh, I love rap music. And I go digging for it, and then it related to my problem. You know what I mean? So it became empowering me to like, yo man. I mean, like this music is empowering. I mean, give me hope, give me realize that life isn't just a party. Life is life. You know what I mean? Life is like there's a lot of things that you need to figure it out. Life ain't just a party. So yeah, I think this whole music, this whole culture it's very, very dope. It's like,
That's awesome. Yeah, you're saying like it started first with a party, and then acknowledging that life also it is a party to celebrate, but also consciousness also is a party to celebrate and acknowledge how important it is, and that it pulled out hope for you and allowing you to share your what you want hope for as a community, because you have strong MCs.
thank you.
Where you're from. There's one sister that I met in Australia. It starts with R. I can't remember. Is she still doing?
Ramen girl?
I think she's from Jakarta, or she's from a smaller place, but maybe from like 5 years back, I met her in Sydney, and powerful and very political though. And she was getting in trouble a lot. And she was raising a lot of situations that she just didn't agree on certain political movements and stuff. So she was definitely the rebel. I wish I knew her name, but I'll definitely send it out to you guys individually or to the group so you can get to know. We are going to slowly, unfortunately, stop this. But before we leave, Serge, I definitely would love to as well. That's why I love speaking to 5Cs, MD, and yourself, because you guys are, and also Raquel as well, because you guys are from different parts of the world. So we'll end on you, Raquel. But Serge, what was your first invitation to hip hop? Like, as far as this, what is this Black culture and who are these people? Why the dynamics of, you said, the graffiti and the dancing and, and then all of a sudden learning, okay, there's this side of it. Now, okay, what do I want to be a part of it and how to implement it in my life?
Yeah, in so many things I agree with MD that he has been telling about the party parts of the culture, and I fully agree with that. But what I'm thinking about when I just realizing what to say, answering the question, is about the Soviet heritage. As you might know, the Soviet Union has a lot of relations with African countries, and we've got a lot of supports of different technological stuff in Africa, and that's why my parents have been living to Africa for some time, also from the Soviet program, and so that means I saw a lot of that culture since my childhood. And maybe that Soviet education and Soviet culture that's also been helping to mix the Russian folk culture, some traditional things, some communist things, and some modern art things. I think we have the same roots and the same origins of so many things. It's like break dancing. We have Russian steps, and I know that that's come from Russia. We have that element, and I definitely can identify that this is from classical Russian dance, and so I can recognize that move and this good example. I think that's it.
Awesome, thank you. Raquel, would you like to share that as well? Like being in Spain, the interpretation, your first meeting hip hop, I'm like, whoa, okay. And then learning the aspects of the conscious side that you're very much a part of now. I'm hoping that we can hear you.
Her connection's been kind of acting funny, so I don't know if she got the question.
Yeah, that's okay. But what we'll do to end it off, guys, can you give me one word that you would like to share to the public and how we can protect, how do we protect our culture? Maybe two. How do we protect our culture of hip hop, the elements, its foundation, and how do we protect one another from unfortunate brutality and destruction to our communities by bigger officials? So we'll start. MD, do you want to share 2 words?
Don't stop, can't stop, won't stop.
5Cs.
Yo, it's been a great conversation. I've learned a lot. It's been good connecting with all of you, seeing all of you, hearing from you. And hopefully we'll be in touch, So everybody keep doing the good work. Keep making music if you make music. Keep working with the youth if that's what you're doing. And keep representing hip hop. Yeah.
Dr. Rich.
Peace. Peace. Peace.
Rynea. Rynea Soul.
Do work. That will be mine. Do work. Everybody can't do it. Everybody don't know how to. And so those of us who are doing it, let's be an example for those and just do work.
Thank you. Natalie, I know you're not seen, but we can hear your voice. So you're definitely a prominent individual in here. What are your two special words or a sentence?
My word is hungry.
Hungry for the art, hungry for the culture.
I'll give you a burger made right now. This is incredibly dynamic as always, and I'm ecstatic to continue to support the growth of this space and this what has become a very beautiful tight-knit network. So I know that was more than one word, but I don't care because I'm hungry. So
no, not at all. You're so adorable. Thank you as well for your amazing support in making this move. Sergi, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be a part of this panel today. And I would say I have only one in my mind, the word love, because we have Hip Hop Loves Foundation with the passion of René to change something, to bring some good things and vibes. So my answer is love. And I hope that we'll have less conflicts and more constructive discussions and the things will go forward. Yeah, that's it.
Ashe, Ashe. Raquel, do you want to type it? If you can't, actually, René, do you mind typing the question so we can hear hers?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I want to hear that voice of yours. Go.
Now I can. So what is the question? Sorry.
No, that's okay. What are two important words that you would like to share to promote the greater of hip hop, how to protect it, its culture, its values, and also how to protect one another as humans from unfortunate forces that we're talking about, like stop shooting to negative government officials?
I think that it's be real, be yourself. That's very important, and commitment. Just do what you consider you have to do. Trust in you and in the group of people that you are working in, and just go for it. If you trust that you can do some good for the community, just do it.
Yes. I'll say mine before we end with René ending this amazing panel. It has been an honor to spend time with all of you and learn from you. I hope that I can keep in contact with many of you. My two words would be life and love. And adding to that is I have acronyms. So life is to live intentionally, forever evolve. And love is to learn optimistically and value your existence. And if we practice actively, then we can definitely provide a beautiful, special place on our earth. So I'll hand it back to René. Big ups, Hip Hop Loves. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll share my two words before closing. I have two words. My two words: love and compassion. I feel like we have a lot more compassion for each other. That becomes the understanding. There comes the connection. Obviously, love always is going to connect people some way because people have things they're going to love, and you can connect each other through those things you love. So that's why I say those two things. And I want to say thank you to everybody here for this dynamic panel. Really acknowledge you guys because I know there's a lot of work that everyone does here and a lot of sacrifice. You could also throw that word in too, because there's a lot of sacrifice everyone does, to do this job. And, everyone here are healers and trying to do stuff. And then also you got to take the time to heal yourself at those times. So there's like that interesting balance you have to have with that. But yeah, thanks to all the organizations that have been involved, from Generation Hip Hop Union, Junior Music Executive, the GECS Summit. Natalie, thank you so much for, holding it down on the tech side, always doing your thing with that. We appreciate you. I know you had to bully another group to get out the Zoom room so we can.
I did end their meeting abruptly just to get on here.
Yeah, you have to end the
No,
meeting.
no shame in my game.
Stop shooting, but you have to kindly end another meeting to get us started. So, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to all you guys doing such great work and continue to do the great work, and also being a part of this project. We have volume 2 that is going to be coming out in November. We're still pushing volume 1. For everyone out there, if you can go to our YouTube channel, Hip Hop Loves Foundation YouTube channel. You can see some music videos for some of these songs as well, from We're Not Kidding, I don't know if I pronounced it totally correctly in Russian, but I'm getting there with it, Unity. We also have Times Are Changing, and we have Don't Shoot. So then, let's continue to build. You can check us out. You can go to Bandcamp to support the project and the project if you haven't. You can check out all the respective organizations' pages on Instagram, because there's so many dynamic things that are happening and the connections are just immense. So just, want to give a shout out to everybody once again who've been a part of it. Like, this has been a journey to do this. It did take 6 years. Sometimes we were like, oh yeah, we want to do this. And it just kind of morphed into this, beautiful project. And it's great to see, other people from these projects connecting, even working on other projects. And, we look forward to getting together, within the next year and really having this conversation in person and working on project and working on music and, doing all this dynamic stuff, because that's what's important for, this, our culture and how we are making a change in this world. So, want to thank you guys. And, you can check us out at www.hiphoploves.org on the website, Hip Hop Loves on IG, GHH Global, Instagram, Hip Hop Union Instagram, Junior Music Exec Instagram. And thank you to my lovely co-moderator, my sis, Mirrah. Check her out at Mirrah Reflects on Instagram. See all the dynamic stuff she's doing too. So I want to say thank you to everyone who just took the time to, watch this. Definitely share the links to this conversation and see if it's done. And much love to everybody, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we love you. One love.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah. That was dope.
That was amazing, Renee. Thank you, MD.
Yeah, the MD.
Thank you, Raquel.
I saw you fighting those mosquitoes out there.
Yeah, man, look. So many mosquitoes. I got sniped by mosquitoes.
Oh, man, I'm feeling
That's your fault. You in Indonesia.
I know that feeling being here in Brazil, bro. Trust me. I'm like, yo, man, I want to really give you a tennis racket, my electric tennis racket, so you like,
Yeah, man.
Every now and then I see him like.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I saw him looking around.
I thought you were doing the Harlem Shuffle.
You do some Tai Chi while we doing this panel. You doing the break?
He doing the Harlem Shuffle with the dust off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mosquitoes right here, yo.
Oh my God. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama.
Yeah, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Raquel, for your amazingness.
Yeah, thanks for being a champ in the middle of the night, early morning, getting up.
Man, I apologize. I thought it was tomorrow night.
When you said Sunday, I just thought you assumed it was Sunday. You knew like Sunday your time early.
Yeah, not Sunday. Yeah. Luckily, I heard that phone. All I heard was a doop 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 doop. I'm like, who is calling me? Like, no one called. Like, what the hell?
I'm saying it's brought love to this, man. How you just taking the notes and all that was really dope. It was really amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. This is what I love to do. I love learning. And when I hear people, and it's also notes as well for myself, like I love that whole multi-layer conversation. Dr. Rich is ill. Break.
Raquel was like, we got to get Dr. Rich on it.
Man, that was a wonderful insight. And same with brother 5 Steez.
Yeah, 5 Steez is dope, yeah.
You know, so, and it was lovely to finally meet Sergi.
Yeah, right. After
You know, yeah. I'm like, you okay? Hello. So yeah, it was very good. Everyone had such powerful initiatives, and it's just great to be amongst like-minded individuals that wish to provide that amazing safe space as educators.
Yeah.
That we happen to be hip hoppers first, you know, and it's crazy because I think that's the power unit. When individually we all met hip hop, we did luckily get introduced to the conscious side straight away. It was something that pulled us in. And we felt like, because we've spoken before, René, where, we acknowledged the kind of 3 sides, the 3 elements in the sense of how hip hop evolved. You have, which wasn't necessarily advertised or marketed worldwide, but you'd have like, in the sense of not Zulu Nation, but African Bambaataa himself representing the whole side of the bi and homosexual side. But even though he was hidden, but he still was, as far as the house, the underground vibes of that part of the culture. And then you had the nerdy side. And then you had the very strong male